Browns. 224 young men who today are about to become players in the National Football League. A day where lives are changed, fates are decided, dynasties are born, and the clock is always ticking. Of course, I'm talking about Draft Day.
Well. Good day, everybody. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. This is my fourth installment and my final predictions for the 2025 NFL Draft, which starts in just 3 days. Today's Monday. I'm going to release this a little later. Monday. Draft is Thursday. We will be here covering it every step of the way. The draft is complete. I did it including trades. It was the hardest draft I've ever had to do. I took a lot of information, a lot of late information. Ultra Cowboy, he sent me some late news. I'm trying to compute it all. And even with that, there's going to be changes. This, again, I'm taking pride in it. I took pictures of it. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's going on at the front office level. We don't know what's going on at the front office level down to the coaching level. And you'll know, we'll go pick by pick. I will show you the draft board when it's over, okay? But I'm not going to show you now because I had to do trades. This simulator was kind of janky and it was not going by the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. It was ridiculous. But that being said, we will discuss the ebbs and flows of the draft and my decisions on why I chose what I did. And let's get it going. Obviously, I believe the easiest pick of this whole draft, one of two easiest picks, is none other than Cam Ward going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. Again, they haven't even looked at anybody else. They fell in love with Cam Ward. It's an open and shut case. Gotta love the pick. I know Bad Dog Sports, New York Giant, a content, New York Yankee, a content creator. Bad Dog wanted Cam Ward in the worst way. He was right all along. Cam Ward was the better quarterback. We'll get to Shedeur. Cam Ward goes to the Tennessee Titans. Sorry, Bad Dog. Sucks for you, but and the New York Football Giants. Kyle Pizzle, see you Tuesday night, my man. Moving on to number 2. The Cleveland Browns, I've had them taking this player for the most part once we realized Shedeur Sanders wasn't going to be the pick. Kind of surprised just because you don't get a chance to draft. Normal teams don't get a chance to draft this high in the draft too often, but they don't want Shedeur Sanders. So they go with the Colorado Buffs wide receiver / corner extraordinaire, wants to play both ways or doesn't want to play football at all. We'll see how that works out. Travis Hunter goes to the Cleveland Browns at number 2. And now the draft starts. Yes, this is where it gets haywire. It gets ridiculous. It's not that easy to do these things. It's not. There is a power struggle going on with the help of the resources that have been brought to me. There is a power struggle going on within the New York Football Giants. From the top, you got Joe Schoen, who's on the hot seat, okay? This pick could change, but Joe Schoen is on the hot seat for obvious reasons. And so is Brian Daboll, who's on the hot seat. This is what's going on right now. You got Brian Daboll, who is used to having big, mobile, physical quarterbacks. Then you have Shedeur Sanders, who's a little mobile, not big, not strong, does not fit in the mold of what Brian Daboll wants to do. Joe Schoen and all the scouts are heavily favoring Shedeur Sanders. The owner is staying out of it. This is where the draft starts, everybody. Right here. This could go either way, but I'm not going to go down a road to pick a lesser player if I can avoid it. So this is my shot, okay? This is my shot. I could be risque and take Shedeur Sanders. Who's going to win out? If it's Shedeur Sanders, Jesse Montanez, then you know Joe Schoen is worried about his job. If he's going to truly let Brian Daboll coach and go out and buy the groceries, so to speak, you know, because he wants to coach who he wants to coach, then it won't be. They'll worry about quarterback later. So I got the New York Football Giants selecting Abdul Carter, edge rusher, out of Penn State. Stay tuned on this on draft night. Me and Primetime Phil will be there just breaking it all down. This is the pinnacle moment in the Giants franchise. Moving along. This is the next mind-boggling pick. What I've been saying all along has been brought to light by Todd McShay through Ultra Cowboy. Thank you again. Todd McShay is saying the same things I said when I looked at Will Campbell that the NFL people are talking about. That Will Campbell is nowhere near Penei Sewell or anything like that. He's a good football player. He's going to be he's going to be a hell of a captain. He's going to command a room. But there's a guy that's climbing up the board. Everybody wants this guy. Everybody wants this player. Jalon Walker is in serious consideration to go right here at number 4. It absolutely is. It would not surprise me if Jalon Walker is the pick. But I think at the end of the day, this could be the first mistake of the draft. I know for a fact that New England called the Eagles, and the Eagles were strongly considering. I'm not going to say they were going to do it, even though my sources tell me they were going to do it. But in this case, it doesn't matter because Abdul Carter's gone. I think it's better for the Eagles, and it's better for New England. This could be a hit or miss. Jalon Walker, I think cooler heads prevail. They stick to their board, even though this isn't your normal offensive lineman stud that you would see at this point of the draft. They go Will Campbell out of LSU, offensive lineman. That's best for Drake May. I think in the end, they take care of their quarterback here. They just got to hope that they can coach this kid up. He's a hell of a leader, Will Campbell. Will Campbell does all the intangibles. He's just not that upper echelon. Very good player. Very good player. Excuse me. Moving along. The Jacksonville Jaguars. This pick, the information I got late in the day about this next pick astonished me. And it quite frankly, it made me happy because I am so scared of this football player. It has been long mocked that Mason Graham was the absolute pick here, when in reality, Mason Graham is not the guy that they want. They want an offensive juggernaut. Now, I did tell you that in my last mock draft. They are looking at 2 players. They are looking at 2 or 3 players. They're looking at Tet McMillan. They're looking at Ashton Jeanty because Ashton Jeanty may be the 3rd best player in this draft. They're strongly looking at Ashton Jeanty. My son's like, Well, they got, you know, Tank Bigsby, they got ETN. So you can blame this on my son, but AJ. But all kidding aside, I can't believe they're going to do this, right? They got Brian Thomas Jr., but my sources are telling me that they're not going to go with the best player on the board in Ashton Jeanty. They're not going Mason Graham, short-armed Mason Graham, who is kind of like the defensive version of a Will Campbell, doesn't measure up in a lot of areas other than his motor. They're not going Mason Graham. My second straight mock draft, but I am told they want length. They want a tall weapon. So to me, that's saying Tyler Warren. But there's only really one guy here, and this is a boomer bust pick. Todd McShay has him as his 50th, 5-0, and he's standing on that hill. God bless you, Todd. Jacksonville Jaguars go Tet McMillan at number 5. Oh, no. Oh, I know nobody likes it. I know I have it somewhere. Oh, shit. Yeah, that's an oh crap moment, if you ask me. Tet McMillan goes number 5. Number 6, another shocker. This one can go in a couple ways. Either way doesn't include Ashton Jeanty. The Raiders have been linked to Ashton Jeanty for as long as I've been doing these mock drafts. Oh, they're taking him. They're taking him. Now, I said cornerback. But again, this edge rusher, everybody wants a piece of. This is a spot. I am including trades in this mock. I am, but there's not many trades. This is a spot where they could possibly trade, but they need the player. So I'm not going to predict a trade. With the number 6 pick, the Las Vegas Raiders take Jalon Walker, linebacker out of Georgia. They want an edge rusher. That's what they want. They're contemplating Tyler Warren, but Jalon Walker, all these teams want him. They're going to be calling the Raiders. This is a possible trade back, but I couldn't really narrow down just because of the number of edge rushers that are going to go in the first round, that there's enough to go around for people. And nobody really wants to give up a lot for anything, really. And it makes sense because the meat of this draft is in rounds 2, 3, and 4 and into the 5th round. So, all right. Number 7, Tyler Warren he's up for consideration. But the Jets, I'm told, are going defense. You say, well, yeah, they're going defense. They're going with short-armed defensive tackle Mason Graham here. They could go edge rusher, but Mason Graham is the highest player on their board. This one was not that hard for me. It wasn't. And if you noticed, Ashton Jeanty is still on the board, everybody. Ashton Jeanty is still on the board. So Jets take Mason Graham. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers were eyeing Jalon Walker. They may try and trade up with the Raiders, but the Raiders need the player. And as soon as the Raiders find out that Carolina wants Jalon Walker, that's going to solidify who they want, if Carolina even tells them. So the Carolina takes another player they're linked to, edge rusher out of Georgia, Michael Williams, which breaks the heart of the New Orleans Saints because they're up on the clock. Now, if Carolina Panthers are okay with any of the edge rushers still on the board, then they would trade to New Orleans and play dumb to get some draft capital. I am told that New Orleans wants to replace a Cam Jordan who's on the final year of his deal. Cam Jordan body type. Defensive line, defensive edge. That's Michael Williams. Well, what do you want for him? What do you want for him? But I'm not going to predict this trade because there's a bunch of studs still on the board. So, again, It's too expensive to trade in the top 10. Carolina gets Michael Williams. New Orleans Saints. Everybody says Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur Sanders. Late news is Shedeur Sanders is not a favor of one Kellen Moore. Shedeur Sanders and Kellen Moore, they want no part of Shedeur. They don't want any part of a quarterback at this point in the draft. They want to go defense, as I just stated. You got defensive tackle on the board, but everybody is hunting edge rushers, which goes back to Dallas bringing in Michael Williams and the draft experts. Sorry, Brian Broaddus and Voch Lombardi. I love these guys. These guys, I enjoy listening and watching their content. But they have been down, and they're probably right. These men are probably right. Brian Broaddus, Super Bowl winner with the Green Bay Packers. They're probably right. But for some reason, the NFL people are hunting defensive players, and they're not afraid to take them. The New Orleans Saints do not go Ashton Jeanty. They do not go Jackson Dart. They do not go Shedeur Sanders. What they do go is Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Shamar Stewart has climbed up the board, is a big-bodied, athletic freak, and that could possibly take over for a Cam Jordan. That's what they're looking for. Michael Williams was their darling. Shamar Stewart is right there. They're happy. They're getting that body type. And he gets to groom under Cam Jordan for a year. Moving on to number 10. The Chicago Bears they are sitting there jumping up and down, okay? Because they got their guy, Tyler Warren. But oh no, who's on the board? Ashton Jeanty. Why is Ashton Jeanty on the board? They are in an unbelievably great problem to have. But you do not window dress your draft board. Tight end is deep. Running back is deep. You go with the best player on the board. You go Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty goes number 10 to the Chicago Bears, breaking the hearts of the Cowboys. Not really. He shouldn't have made it this far, right? He should not have made it this far. Number 11, this is a possible trade. I had some trades with the Niners, with Tet McMillan. Tet McMillan's gone. So that trade is gone. I had the Niners trading with Seattle. Seattle sliding ahead of Dallas like everybody does to get their guy. Niners do not trade. The price is too steep. The Niners can go a couple ways. They could go corner. They could go defensive edge that's flying off the board, or they could go offensive line. Well, Trent Williams is on the downside. There's a lot of different ways you could go here. I went with the fast-rising beast of a guard in Armand Membou, goes to the 49ers, maybe hurts some of the draft experts that follow the Cowboys and cover the Cowboys, wanting them to get Membou. Niners just stick and pick a solid player who can come in and start from day one. And that leaves the Dallas Cowboys are on the board. Dallas Cowboys are on the board. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Dallas is on the board. Let's hear that ring again. Oh, wait. There is a trade on the board. There is a trade. There is a trade. There is a trade. Dallas is on the phone right now. They are on the phone with a team. How far are they going back? Right now, you got Stephen Jones working the numbers. Dallas Cowboys do their due diligence. The Indianapolis Colts jump over the Miami Dolphins. Dallas drops down 2 spots, gets their 4th-round pick back, and the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, the guy that they've coveted, their Dallas Goedert. Indianapolis had the picks. Dallas was looking. It was a marriage made in heaven. Rumors are Miami could take offensive line, but they're eyeing the stud, the blinking light on the board. They're eyeing it up. Tyler Warren. So Dallas does the right thing. Dallas could have got higher technically, but they go with a 4th-round pick. They get their 4th-round pick. Indianapolis Colts get their guy in Tyler Warren. They're rolling the dice. Dallas could take Warren. Dallas has done a really good job. Miami is linked to offensive guard and Tyler Warren. So Indianapolis jumps up 2 for the 4th-round pick. Dallas drops 2. Okay, we know what Dallas needs. So now Miami's sitting there, and Miami Dolphins take the best player on their board at the offensive line, and they take Kelvin Banks Jr. out of the University of Texas. And here we go. Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. This pick has been rumored. I'm glad Ted McMillan is gone. Some of the players that I would be happy with is a Josh Simmons, even though I don't think, I'm on record saying I don't want an offensive lineman at this spot. Maybe a little later. If we were to drop down again, that's a possibility. But the Dallas Cowboys are looking at guys like Walter Nolan. Dallas Cowboys are looking at guys like Omarion Hampton. Okay? To me, it's either Golden or Hampton. But honestly, they're looking at guys like Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, Tyler Booker. These are the type of guys. But if you're looking at, I'll give you 2 names on defense. Walter Nolan. I don't believe that they're a James Pierce or a Mike Green fan. I would say Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan. I would say Tyler Booker. I would say Omarion Hampton, Matthew Golden, Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron. I mean, that's a lot of names. But they do what the fans want. Hook 'em, baby. Hook 'em, hook 'em. Dallas Cowboys select Matthew Golden out of Texas, wide receiver, a route running machine. Again, I would be on the phone trying to trade down again, knowing that you still got other wide receivers on the board. But they do the right thing here. And all in all, they go out and get a route runner who could take a top off of defense, even though he hasn't necessarily showed it on film that he's a burner. I think his play speed isn't what he runs at his 40. He is still a perfect complement for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and that offense. It's a tough one because I think Omarion Hampton is really in play here. But I think they go and take care of the Dak fanboys and give him a offensive weapon. Matthew Golden goes to the Cowboys at number 14, not 12. And we get our 4th-round pick. Let's go. The Atlanta Falcons are hunting edge rushers, and edge rushers have flown off the board. Edge rushers, Abdul Carter, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, doesn't matter. The meat of this draft early, there is a bunch of studs that can get after the ball. They go with James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. The off-the-field concerns, they're willing to roll the dice. Again, no guts, no glory. You can't have a whole team of choir boys, but they do their due diligence, and they, from what I hear, they're comfortable drafting this player. I think they also could take a Walter Nolan, a Mike Green, but in this scenario, they take James Pierce Jr. That's who they take. Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. They're looking at edge. Edge is getting wiped. They're looking at Mike Green or Walter Nolan. They go with the upside of Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Could go either way. But I know who's happy. The Cincinnati Bengals are ecstatic that Mike Green, because Mike Green was looking at Pierce. I mean, the Bengals were looking at Mike Green and James Pierce Jr. One fell to them. The Bengals, who were likely to trade Hendrickson during the draft or keep him and re-sign him. As of now, it hasn't happened. Mike Green, edge out of Marshall, goes to Cincinnati. They're happy. They get one of their guys. Moving along to number 18, they went out. If they didn't go out and get a Cooper Kupp, right? They have Jackson Smith and Jigba. Then I would say wide receiver is next in line. But they did go out and do those moves. And I think this team is looking for a guy to fall to them. And without an injury, he would have been my first offensive tackle taken. I have Josh Simmons going, the Ohio State offensive tackle, going to Seattle at number 18. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're looking defensive edge or defensive tackle. Edge is getting hit hard, real hard. Defense. This is going to be a defensive line heavy first round. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers go Derek Harmon. Once Nolan was gone, it made it easy. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle with big-time pass rush skills from the interior out of Oregon. So Tampa gets a solid player. Number 20, we've been talking about the Denver Broncos wanting to trade up for a running back. They love Omarion Hampton. Kind of like what happened to the Eagles last year, because I think that Denver's trying to move up, but the price to move up is too expensive, and these defensive edge rushers coming off the board, nobody wants to drop down and to miss their guy. Denver loses out the opportunity to trade up, but they stick and they get their guy, a lot like the Eagles did last year with Kenyon Mitchell in the first round. They were trying to trade up, and he fell to them. So sometimes the things you don't do pay off. So let's just review how many trades we have in the top 20. One. Yes, after all that talk about trading up for quarterbacks, there's only one quarterback that has been taken, and that's Cam Ward. Shedeur Sanders is falling like a rock. How many quarterbacks go in the first round? Well, that leaves the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. Pittsburgh Steelers do not have a lot of draft picks, people. They do not. They do not have a fourth-round draft pick or a third-round draft pick. They do not have a third-round draft pick. So the Steelers are hunting a third-round pick. They get that and more because the New York Football Giants trade up from number 34 up to the number 21st pick. They get, I'm not going to discuss everything they got because this mock draft simulator was ass. They got their third-round pick back and then some. The New York Giants go from 34 back into 21. Joe Shane is driving himself nuts. He sees that Shedeur Sanders is getting into the 20s. Brian Daboll relents because he's got his Abdul Carter. They go and get Shedeur Sanders, Jesse Montanez. They trade up at 21, and they get Shedeur Sanders, okay? And why do you say that? Well, I believe that the scouts and Joe Shane win out. I think they played the game with Brian Daboll, who's also on the hot seat, who is a great offensive mind, but has not been perfect. He's in no position to live in a glass house and throw stones, if you know what I'm saying. So Brian Daboll, he didn't get his big mobile guy that he wanted, but this is a happy medium. We gave him a defensive beast, and now Joe Shane is like, no, I'm stepping in. Looking at the way the draft's going, I'm stepping in. And they go and they get Shedeur Sanders at 21. Okay? You're asking me why didn't Pittsburgh take Shedeur Sanders? Because Pittsburgh doesn't have draft picks. Pittsburgh likes Shedeur Sanders, but they like picks more. And I told you that they fell in love with Will Howard, who's going to be available to them, and they could take him in the second round, the top of the second at this point. They're going to get everything they want. Jackson Dart is not the favor that everybody thinks they are. When you bring in guys and multiple guys and you keep bringing in guys, that means you really haven't fell in love with anybody. But the scouts and Joe Shane love Shedeur Sanders. Brian Daboll, not so much, but you know how this works. You're going to win with the players I give you. We gave you Abdul Carter. If Shedeur Sanders would have went to the Saints, then fine. He did not. He dropped. He was in striking distance. The Steelers wanted to move out because they have other things in mind. They need more picks. It works for both teams. Marriage made in heaven. Shedeur Sanders to the New York Football Giants brings up number 22. The Chargers can go in a few different ways. They went Big Joe Alt out of Notre Dame last year on the offensive line. They could go Loveland, tight end. They're not going Loveland. They're going with big Michigan ex-Jim Harbaugh coach player, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, goes to Michigan. They would like an edge rusher, but at this point, a lot of the edge rushers are gone. So go with a stud that you know, a Kenneth Grant. You can't go wrong with big boys up the middle. Number 23, corner. This is where they could go. I got Green Bay going with a corner here. Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. They could go Jahdae Barron. I originally had Siobhan Ravel, but he's dealing with some serious injury issues. He's dropping in this draft. He's probably going to drop deep into the second round, in my opinion, maybe into the third round. This could go either way. I gave them Will Johnson. Just pick. Now we're hearing out of Green Bay that Jair Alexander is somebody they're trying to keep. Don't buy it. If you go get a Will Johnson, you don't need to keep a Jair Alexander. They will move Jair Alexander during the draft. After the first round, they get to go home and take a deep breath. They will move him for a pick, whether it's in the 2025 or in the 2026 draft. They will move Jair Alexander. They just got his replacement in Will Johnson at 23. I think that's good. Moving on. Minnesota Vikings at 24. I had them taking Siobhan Ravel, but injury concerns and more info coming out, not good. Jahdae Barron, a cornerback out of Texas, goes here. He's a hell of a football player. He may not measure up in size. Dude's just a ball hawk. He could play in the slot. He could play safety. He could play outside. He could do it all. Jahdae Barron, love the player, goes at number 24 to the Minnesota Vikings. Number 25, Laramie Tunsil was traded away. I've had Josh Simmons going to this, the Houston Texans. Josh Simmons is gone at 18. Probably the smart move by Seattle. He's that good, just coming off an knee injury. Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama, slides in to Houston. Not far. Very good pick for Houston. They know what they're doing. That front office knows what they're doing as far as drafting football players. It's a solid pick for them. Number 26. I struggled until I read an article about Matt Stafford. The Rams are on the clock. Matt Stafford is not long for this league. I think a perfect replacement and an understudy for Matt Stafford is none other than Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. It's a marriage made in heaven. Now, yes, the Rams need other positions. Sure they do. But they also need a quarterback of the future. This coach says he's in it for the long haul. Just a marriage made in heaven. Jackson Dart, who has fallen down in most teams' draft boards, is allowed to understudy with a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Matt Stafford, who's on the tail end of his career. Maybe he's got a year left. They'll probably move on from him after this year. Maybe they'll have him for a couple years. But Jackson Dart, Matt Stafford, Los Angeles Rams makes way too much sense. Number 27. The Baltimore Ravens are looking for a defensive lineman, edge rushers. Again, like everybody, it's a position in the first round that you can't go wrong with because it's that loaded. Nick Scorton possibly. I gave them Boston College edge rusher Donovan Iziriku I probably butchered the name. Ezira Ezirariku. Ezer Ezeraku. How's that? Donovan Ezeraku, edge out of Boston College, bringing up number 28. Um, the Detroit Lions are looking for another edge rusher. Yes, they do got their guy back who got hurt in the Dallas game. Um, they go with a guy who was linked to the Eagles, a edge rusher out of Texas A&M, Nick Scorton. They could go anywhere. They could go Tyleek Williams. They could, but I think they'd go with the best edge rusher left with huge upside. And he doesn't have to come in right away and be the guy. But Detroit Lions, kills it yet again. So Nick Scorton, edge rusher out of Texas A&M, goes to the Lions. In my opinion, saving the birds a little bit, because I'm not a huge fan of the player, but we'll see. Now, this is where it gets a little tough. At number 29, Washington Commandos. Now you're looking at the board here and you're like, wow, Malachi Starks, Nick Emanwari. I did a little homework on the pick. My opinion, based on Dan Quinn, they're going to go with the big boy, athletic boy. Fits better. And boy, I don't mean that in a disrespectful. A athletic man. Nick Emanwari, safety out of South Carolina, goes to the Commanders. They could go Malachi Starks here if they wanted. They have the choice. They go with the upside. He fits a little bit better with what Dan Quinn likes to do. Bigger bodied guy. Nick Emanwari. The pick could be Starks, but to me, I'm thinking they roll the dice a little bit and go Nick Emanwari out of South Carolina. That brings up the Buffalo Bills at 30. Defensive tackle, Ohio State, Tyleek Williams. Again, they're looking defense. They're hunting edge rushers. Well, they're all gone. Walter Nolan's gone. Derek Harmon's gone. Kenneth Grant's gone. So Tyleek Williams, you cannot go wrong with Tyleek Williams. Tyleek will come in. It just seems like a Buffalo Bill pick to me. It really does. It really does seem like a Buffalo Bill pick. 31, the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl loser, the Big L. Yes, the Big L. They're looking for offensive tackle. They were hoping Josh Simmons would be here. Josh Simmons is not here. So they go to the next rated guy on the board. Who you say that is? Who you say? Offensive guard out of North Dakota State, Gray Zabel. Yes, Gray Zabel is on the board. And that brings up the Super Bowl champion. That brings up the Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. Again, I can't say it enough. Hell of a job last year. 2-hour discontent. But at the end of the day, you look at excellence, and they were on a roll, and they dominated. No doubt in the Super Bowl. They dominated the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a couple good options there. You got Loveland is still on the board. We're hearing about a tight end, but tight end runs deep in this draft. You got Donovan Jackson. A lot of these mock drafters have taking a guard here. A guard, right? And you're like, well, okay. Donovan Jackson, he could slide right in and start for you, but you got Jeff Statland there. Do you really need to go Donovan Jackson there? When a Malachi Starks is still on the board? So it came down to Donovan Jackson and Malachi Starks. Arguably the best safety in the class. And what tipped my, the scales for me was the fact that you got rid of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which leaves you a spot. Now, I think Cooper DeJean will stay in as a corner, at least for now. At this part of his career, maybe later in his career, he slides to safety, but DeJean's young, athletic. I think he's still going to remain a corner. The Eagles walk away with another Georgia player. They select safety Malachi Starks. And there it is. I'm going to share it with you. And there it is, everybody. I will see if I can make it bigger for you. Pause. There it is. I'll leave it at 125 because then you can see everything. There it is. There it is, everybody. Real quickly as we wrap up, you got Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell. Again, that could be Jalon Walker as a shocker. But I think in the end, smart minds prevail. It's a gamble. It's a gamble with Campbell. But they go with Campbell to protect their investment. Tet McMillan, Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, I don't have a problem with them not taking Mason Graham. But for Tet McMillan, I would go Ashton Genty. I know you got the running back, ETN. I would have went Genty. They're contemplating going Genty. Let me just tell you. Genty could go here. I had him going in my last mock. But it ain't Mason Graham. It's Tet McMillan. They want a big-bodied receiver. Tyler Warren, an outside chance. But I went with Tet McMillan. Jalon Walker goes to the Raiders. Mason Graham, the Jets. You said, well, okay. They could go Tyler Warren. They didn't expect Mason Graham to be there. Again, they have picks at the top of the second. Okay. Loveland's still on the board. Okay. So again, we're going to go over that before we get out of here. But real quick, Mykel Williams, Shamar Stewart. Ashton Genty goes to the Bears when they were like, all right, Tyler Warren. It's a tough pill for them because they were looking at Tyler Warren. They didn't think the third best player would drop to him. Armand Membu at the Niners. Tyler Warren is our first trade. Trades up 2 spots. Dallas takes a little bit of an undersell. That's fine for Dallas. They still get their guy. They get their 4th-round draft pick. Tyler Warren goes at 12, right in front of Miami, to the Indianapolis Colts. Kelvin Banks Jr., followed by Matthew Golden, goes to our Cowboys. James Pierce Jr. goes to Atlanta. Walter Nolan goes to Arizona. Mike Green goes to the Bengals. Josh Simmons goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Derek Harmon goes to the Tampa Bay Bucks. O'Marion Hampton, Denver gets their guy. He could have been a Cowboy. We'll see. We'll be following Hampton's career as well as Matthew Golden's career going forward. Shedeur Sanders, the Giants, Joe Shane, he puts his foot down, makes the trade to get back up into the first round, get that 5th-year option, gets his guy and his scouts guy in Shedeur Sanders. Kenneth Grant goes number 22 to the Chargers. Will Johnson goes to Green Bay. Jahdae Barron goes to Minnesota. Tyler Booker goes to Houston. Jackson Dart goes to the Rams. Donovan Ezeriku goes to the Ravens. Nick Scorton goes to Detroit Lions. Nick Emanwari, that was a tough one for me because I like Starks better, but I think Dan Quinn goes Emanwari. They seem to think that he fits better there in that scheme. Whatever. Don't overthink it. They did. Tyleik Williams goes to Buffalo. Gray Zabel goes to the Chiefs. And you saw that the Chiefs needed help with that offensive line. So they're hoping Josh Simmons. Gray Zabel's a beast. He'll be fine. The Eagles dominated them. If they're looking ahead, they may have to deal with the Eagles again. But Gray Zabel, a good pick. Eagles just stick and get another Georgia guy. And Malachi Starks. How could you go wrong? But I want to discuss some of the players that are still on the board. Let's see here. Let me just see. Some of the players still on the board, okay, are Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan, and Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Luther Burden III, wide receiver out of Missouri. Jalen Milroe, Donovan Jackson. I'm only really bringing up guys who could possibly go in the first round. Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State. Josh Connerly, offensive tackle out of Oregon, who could go to the Chiefs, but I did not mock him there. And obviously we get into some later guys. For the Dallas Cowboys' sake, If we're looking in the second round, you got Donovan Jackson, like I said. They don't need receiver at this point. You got Travion Henderson. Can he make it to 44? I don't know. You got Caleb Johnson. Quishon Judkins. Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia. Love him. Jaden Higgins. We don't need a wide receiver anymore. Just looking at it. Just looking at possible players at 44. Yeah, so I mean, like maybe since we went since we went offensive wide receiver, you're hoping Travion Henderson, Judkins, Caleb Johnson are there. But some of the guys that are on the board right now, you got Jihad Campbell is still on the board. I don't think he's making it nowhere near 44. Siobhan Revell is on the board. Siobhan Revell, he's high-rated corner, tall guy. I'm not a big fan of tall corners, but he's on the board. Carson Swessinger, can he make it to 44? Would Dallas pull the trigger? I hope so. I love him. But that would mean when are we taking running back? But now we got a 4th-round pick to deal with it. So anyway, those are some of the picks still on the board. I hope you liked it. Again, I'm going to show you one more time. Oh, wait. I went away from it. Sorry, I don't have it anymore. I hope one more time that you appreciate my last mock draft, 4.0. There it was, everybody. Drink it in. Let me know what you think. All right. With that being said, we got 3 days to go, and I can't wait.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Hey.